We had an executive session earlier this evening to discuss personnel and legal matters. Can I get an approval of the minutes from November 27th? Do we have any questions? Poll council, please.
Mr. Hammer?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Laverne Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson, I think, just stepped down.
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt?
Yes. Approval of accounts payable.
Make that motion.
Do we have any questions?
I'm sorry. I do have a question about, on page 2 of 42, $1,944 in Fitbits. Who are those for?
Okay, that is a Delaware Trust, rebates the city for health benefits for the employees, a monetary amount, and it's for either some sort of a health facility or health equipment. So they got Fitbits for us, for employees, so they can, for healthy living. The other alternative is to buy a treadmill, which was no place for a treadmill or anything used for that in the city. That's what that was for. And it gets reimbursed. That's not out of anybody's account. It gets reimbursed by the trust.
But are those then the cities, or those are the people?
I guess they're given to the employee. I guess I'll have to turn them in if they leave,
Well, either that or just use them for Coatesville walks next year.
whatever.
We'll have a city team.
I have some questions.
Mr. Hammer?
Mrs. Yeah, I saw the gazebo. Are we paying some type of service for cleaning the gazebos or something? And then the pavilion too, on 9 and 42.
What page are you on? Sorry, Mr. Henry.
9 and 42. You have the gazebo and then the pavilion.
It's Pico.
Yeah. Electric service?
That's electric.
It's electric. And then, the animal after November was $1,585, the animal control. Chief?
Yes, that's the,
And I thought I saw that in October too.
well, it's
Yeah.
a monthly bill from the SPCA based upon the number of animals that are turned in to the SPCA. The only thing we can do is just make sure that it's accurate, and if there's no
And they're all in our
19320 area code animals that may have been turned in, and we audit that each month and make sure it's accurate.
And then car 11, you had a payment for $1,396.85. Car 11, is that your car? I mean the car, the police car?
Yes, it's a police car.
Is that an old one? It's not our new one, is it?
No, I believe it's the old Crown Victoria. Yeah, the
Yeah,
old
what did it
car
take?
11 is the old Crown Vic. Right.
What did it take, rotors and? Yeah, but that was from DM
It's not one of the ones that's under warranty.
Because that was from DM Brojo. It's like, what did we get, rotors all around with brake pads, for $1,585?
Yeah, it was not under warranty, and it was, other than the explanation, which just says brake, what's it say, brakes? They can't fit it, the total invoice on the explanation. I mean, I can pull the invoice, Mr. Hammer, for next meeting.
Okay. And then, I guess this would go to, Mr. Trio, or Mr. Carnes, the legal consultant for Gateway. Is that reimbursable by land?
The legal consultant,
$2,204.
that's for the Route 82 realignment.
Pardon?
That's for the Route 82 realignment. The property acquisition is part of that project.
Okay, and that's reimbursable?
Condemnation, that's part of our cost.
Part of our
That's
cost.
all right.
The other part of that cost gets billed to DEPG as part of the project.
Okay, I'm good.
I have another question. I hate to do this, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. $822 on 3 mattresses. for the firehouse. I mean, Shirt Socks has a mattress out every day for $69. It is from Shirt Socks.
Bargains galore in shirt.
No, I'm not, I mean.
What size are the mattresses? Twin?
Twin,
Bunks.
3
Oh,
of them.
yeah, see, I would have sold them to you cheaper than that.
Box springs still?
Yeah,
$300 for each.
that's a lot. That is a lot.
Okay.
Me too.
No. Any other questions? Poll council, please.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lauer Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes,
Mr. Hammer?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? No? Okay. Presentations. 4.1 is Officer Cologne. Would you come forward, please?
Yeah, you have to go down there?
Let's go.
That's a bit tight.
we gotta get, we have to go down there. Everyone down there. Oh, no. Have him come up here.
Officer Cologne, on behalf of the City of Coatesville Council, we want to give you a certificate of recognition for your outstanding services to the community and as well as the efforts that you put forth during Hurricane Maria. And we would like to just read this. It says Certificate of Recognition, in recognition of actions after Hurricane Maria, helping to reach the culture of providing extraordinary service to the citizens of the City of Coatesville, and in this case, the citizens of Puerto Rico. The Coatesville City Council thanks you for going above and beyond. People like you make Coatesville a great place to live, work, and play. Presented to Officer Jose G. Cologne this 11th day of December 2017 in the City of Coatesville. Is signed and sealed by the President of the Office. Thank you so much.
I think Officer Cologne needs to give us like a 15-minute speech on what he did down there. 15, 20, you know.
I'll just give you a little background. For those who may not be familiar with exactly what Officer Cologne organized and accomplished, he was written up in the Daily Local earlier this past week. For those who may have seen that article, front page above the fold. Jose won't take credit for it, but just in a nutshell, we all feel good sometimes when we see natural disaster and text the word disaster to the Red Cross and contribute $10 on your phone. And we feel good about that. Well, Jose did a lot more than that. He recognized the need existing in Puerto Rico following Hurricane Maria, and he organized relief for the island. He approached us in the police department and said, would you mind if we put a collection box out front and the guys and the public could maybe contribute? I want to send something over to the island to help in the disaster relief. Well, what started out as an idea with Officer Cologne ended up in over 100,000 pounds of donated supplies to be not only received, organized, boxed, shipped, shipping container, trucking company, storage facility, ship it to Puerto Rico. Officer Colon flew to Puerto Rico himself, supervised getting the shipping container cleared through customs, and then made arrangements for a trucking company in Puerto Rico and a warehouse in Puerto Rico, and to see that all those supplies, over 100,000 pounds of supplies, were distributed to needy people in the country of Puerto Rico. So just above and beyond, we in the police department and the city are fortunate to have officers such as Officer Colon working for us. This is not his first effort. He's organized many efforts before to assist in the community with his church, going through his church on missions to different countries that are impoverished, third world, and they don't have the things that we take for granted here in the United States. And Jose is a great individual, a great officer, and we are extremely lucky here in the city of Coatesville to have him on our police department. So I wanted to make sure he got the recognition he deserved. He got the award from council. We also have what we have in the department. We call it You Made a Difference Award, and he gets a coaster that I kind of make utilizing our city patch. And he also gets a letter in his file, and I'll just read the letter real quick. And this will sort of sum up what happened. In the early morning hours of September 20th, 2017, Hurricane Maria struck Puerto Rico, causing widespread catastrophic damage across the entire island. Perhaps due to the extremely active 2017 Atlantic hurricane season, the true extent of the damage and the humanitarian crisis that followed was slow to be realized by many back in the States. While many of us watched in horror at the pictures of the aftermath of Maria began to play out in the national media, you, Officer Colon, decided to do more than just watch. With immediate family members living in Puerto Rico and the inability to immediately reach them in the days that followed the storm, you began to mobilize a plan to gather essential basic supplies such as water, non-perishable foodstuffs, and other necessities to help in the recovery effort. What started as a small effort to make a difference in the lives of those so greatly affected by Maria began to grow into a much larger humanitarian relief effort that ended with over 100,000 pounds of supplies donated, a shipping container and trucking company to transport the supplies to the Port of Philadelphia, and arrangements to ship the container to Puerto Rico. For most, that would have been enough. However, you were committed to seeing that the much-needed supplies were indeed delivered to those who were in the most need of relief. You flew to the island immediately following the shipment of the container, personally saw that the container cleared customs as quick as possible, supervised the distribution and delivery of the supplies to those in the most critical need. Actions such as yours help inculcate the culture and concept of providing extraordinary service to the citizens of the city of Coatesville, and in this case, to the citizens of Puerto Rico. Together we can make a difference, and with your selfless efforts in organizing the relief effort in Puerto Rico, you made a difference. Maybe due here shortly?
I just got a picture. He was born a couple minutes ago.
Okay. Jose's daughter, right? Jose's daughter just gave birth to a baby boy.
Congratulations again, officer. We have a presentation from the Coatesville Invitational Grand Prix Committee. Crosby. Mr. Crosby Wood.
I knew I should have gone first. Sneaking feeling that this pales in comparison to Jose's efforts, but we want to thank you. Just give a thanks to the city on behalf of the Grand Prix. We had our second year, which was a tremendous success. We continue to strive to grow the event. As I tell people, the purpose, from my perspective, of the event is to drive interest to Coatesville, to get people to come down and spend the day. Most people who may never have come to Coatesville, or are afraid to come to Coatesville, or succumb to the false perception that Coatesville is a challenging place. You know, it's a great place that has a large, bright future ahead of it. And by an event such as this, it offers an opportunity for the outside to come and spend the day and come away feeling good about Coatesville. And in that breath, we were also fortunate enough to be in the black both the first and second year, a little bit more in the black the second year, and continuing to march in the right direction. So on behalf of the Grand Prix, we would like to dedicate $5,000 to the Park and Recs, and we appreciate everything that the city does, and we expect to do more and more as we march forward. One of the primary goals of next year, or moving into next year, is to give the event the proper structure in which it can grow for many years to come. So we're looking forward to establishing a nonprofit entity that will have the 501c3 designation that will allow for greater and greater contributions that will ultimately flow through to support city initiatives. So if there are any further questions, we appreciate it. And oh, perfect timing. Come on up here. Oh. This is how it works in my life, too. Yeah. That makes two of us. Of course. Of course. I don't know which way to.
I don't have connection.
Anyway. There it is.
Hold on, we got some more people coming down.
Oh, here they come. All right.
Oh, okay.
Cheers. Here.
Turn it around.
We can turn it around. Okay, then. I'm on this. Oh, I'm on the other side.
Oh. You want to do a selfie?
Let's do a selfie and
do it?
selfie.
Hold on, Ruth Ann's gonna get it.
Oh, right there. It's going to do it.
Yeah, there we go.
Modern day right here. Here it is.
You gotta take it. How you gonna do it?
That's no problem. That was,
Yeah, well, let Ruth Ann get one.
Wait,
yeah.
you get everything?
I have a picture of mom trying to take stuff.
Oh, that's even better.
That's all right, I got one of you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely.
I was telling you to turn it red. Oh.
Pleasure, of course. Yeah.
Do I keep the chat? Yeah, you can take it. All right now.
Cheers. Thank you.
That's a city council thing. It doesn't have Parks and Rec.
We good. Okay.
I'm gonna get the citizen hearing.
It's the courts.
Citizen hearing paper.
Do you have to get up anymore? No, I'm really doing that. I'm stuck on all these cords. Okay.
This is not an easy
It isn't.
place.
Okay. Thank you, Grand Prix Committee. Mr. Trio, Mr. Wood, thank you so much.
And if I could just expand on that a little bit, the reason, Mr. Wood said about the formation of a 501c3, we were approached by numerous large corporate donors that said that they would love to give us a lot more money
Mm-hmm.
if we had a 501c3 that they could run it through. And so that, put it in the back of our mind, and Mr. Wood was instrumental in saying, hey, why don't we do something
It makes sense.
Friends of Coatesville, and which will be the fundraising arm, and then that money will be given to the city for the event, and
Right.
we can make it a much bigger event.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you. Citizens' hearings on regular agenda items. Please be mindful that we have a 3-minute limit. At the end of the 3 minutes, it'll buzz on you. And at that time, if you're in the midst of a sentence, you may complete that sentence, but then we'll ask that you would take your seat and allow for the next person, please. We have Mr. Paul Evans up first.
Good evening, Madam President, members of council. I'm here to speak on 6.1. I believe that's the trust fund. The trust fund monies have been withdrawn for all manner of non-emergency reasons. The golf course eminent domain legal fees, the RDA debts from buying overpriced properties, general fund shortfalls from misappropriated parking ticket and trash payments, liabilities from early retirement from city employees, general fund shortfalls due to poor collection of trash fees, general fund shortfalls from poor collection of taxes. The list of often self-inflicted shortfall issues goes on, unlike any were ever emergencies. Unlikely that any were ever emergencies. 3 years ago, I came to the podium to suggest the trust fund money be invested in Apple stock. If that had happened, we'd have more like $12 million in the trust fund versus $5 million. Mr. Collins pointed out that money could only be invested in certain conservative investment instruments, but Mr. Collins finds a way to reduce the principal of the trust fund through sequential questionable withdrawal ordinances, rather than find a way to invest the money in something that will yield enough capital gains each year to cover the budget shortfall, i.e. Apple or Amazon stock, blue chip companies. Lucrative investment strategies that would not require cannibalizing the principal. It's amazing that once again, certain council members risk personal, financial, and legal retribution to make these trust fund withdrawals. Not $1 of which is going to provide for incentives to people to open a business storefront or to purchase a house to own or occupy. Every year, all the money goes to rudimentary government expenses, never to the private sector. Well, maybe not never, but hardly ever, a greatly neglected resource that could generate wage tax towards balancing the budget. You have no finance oversight committee, as I know, as they do in Williston Township, I saw. And there is an attachment on that for later, but you can see it on there. Multifaceted government oversight by non-government persons is needed to examine if an emergency has ever existed and to develop and monitor a strategy to balance the budget. Tonight, Attorney Lee Stivel is here to outline the details of the tentative position you find yourselves in with a second reading of this ordinance to withdraw $600,000 from the trust fund and to persuade you not to pass that ordinance. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stivel? State your name, your address, and if you're a resident of the city.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board, commission. My name is Lee Stivel. My address is Springfield, Pennsylvania.
Can you spell your name? Can you spell it?
Stivale. May I proceed, Madam Chairman? May I proceed?
Yes.
Thank you. Earlier this day, I emailed a letter dated December 11th to members of this council. At the outset, we'd like to thank you for your service to the city. we understand that you do things with good intent. However, sometimes good intent does not always comport to a lawful act. In year 2000, you established an irrevocable segregated trust fund from the sale of assets held by the community city authority that yielded many, many millions of dollars for the authority. Those funds are restricted. Only the city may use interest on an annual basis. And if there is an intent to withdraw funds, it must be based on one of two reasons: natural or economic emergency, approved, certified by the governor, or by adoption of an ordinance after 2 readings and a referendum. Not only must one of these conditions apply, but there also must be a corresponding obligation on your budget to indicate that you owe repayment to the reserve trust fund. Absent fulfilling those conditions, although you may have a good intent, it doesn't comport with the law, and you may subject yourself to personal liability in the event that you take funds inappropriately out of the reserve fund. With that in mind, a few basic questions that you must think about and hopefully articulate a response tonight. Number one, what is the economic or natural emergency? Has your intended withdrawal been approved or certified by the governor? Number two, will any intended distribution from the reserve fund find its way on the budget as a corresponding obligation for repayment, which is required under the ordinance? Those are the questions for this evening that you must consider before you adopt any resolution removing additional funds from the reserve trust fund. If the board please, maybe I can have an answer or two to one of those questions, or two or both of those questions. What type of emergency is involved for the withdrawal of an additional $600,000? And secondly, has this city placed on its budget the notation in its general fund portion that there is an ongoing obligation which has been incurred by the city since year 2000 for prior removals of the trust fund as well as the intended current?
Well, the $600,000 they talking about, we passed last December. I mean,
Thank you.
Yeah, may I have you want me to respond?
do you want him to respond or no?
I think we need some time to discuss it before we make an
I
open.
don't think so, John.
I don't think so. Okay. Thank you.
I mean, if Mr. Stiver wants to do something formally, he's not a resident at all. I mean, he didn't say he was representing a resident. I don't think that you should respond.
Ms. Green, my correspondence, which I believe was also sent to you today, indicate that I do represent property owners of the city.
Mhm.
I'm an attorney. I represent.
I didn't get it.
I have an extra copy or two. I'll hand it to the board. If that satisfies Councilwoman Green's issue, may I have an answer to those two questions?
I don't think so.
Yeah, not at this time. Yeah, I don't think we have an answer.
That
for
being,
those.
have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to close citizens' hearings?
I make that motion.
Second?
Oh,
Do we
it
have-
has your name on it, yeah. The new copy.
Okay,
Mrs. Lawson, Mr. Simpson, second.
yes.
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones? Mrs. Jones?
Ms. Jones, are you okay closing the citizens' hearing?
Mrs. Louder Norris? closed citizens hearings?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt?
Yes. Regular action items. 6.1, receive and consider an ordinance appropriating specific sums estimated to be required for the specific purposes of city government as herein set forth for the year 2018.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Do we have any questions?
Yes. Wait a minute. I'm questioning raises. I am not in favor of any raises as long as we have to borrow from our trust fund. And we have to, and having read through the charter, I know that we have to make the decision, or they just carry over anyway. I just want, I want it to be a matter of record that I'm not in favor of any raises outside of our union employees. I'm in favor of none of them, as long as we have to borrow from the trust fund.
Yes, I agree.
May I
Can you
speak,
explain
Madam
what you
President?
did with the bandages just so they understand? It's part of the process, what we had revised, that we could,
We revised, we didn't make any changes to the preliminary budget that we gave you. guys
Amanda,
that
can you
was
go to the
adopted.
speaker? I can't hear you. I can't. Thank you.
We didn't make any changes to the preliminary budget that you guys got. What we provided was what the impact would be if you were to give 1% or 2% raises to the employees who aren't contractual, who aren't in a union. So that would be, for you guys to decide how you wanted to. if you
Oh,
wanted
so
to
that's
take
why it's written
action.
they
there.
were provided for informational purpose.
Yeah, there's three of them. One says 1%, 2%. Okay.
Madam President, may I speak?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
we're
the
voting
motion
on
would be that.
6.1, the appropriation of funds, okay? So what are we appropriating? Are we appropriating a 43.11% tax hike? You know, or, nobody, because this is where we should do it in the beginning, not at the end. So
Right.
nobody, when a motion was made, okay, nobody in the motion said, what we were doing, okay, what that person wanted, okay? So it's either a 43% tax hike for number one, or 30.82,
It was supposed to be
or
0%.
17.1.
Yeah, I think all of these things need to be tabled. I don't think any of them are ready for a vote.
The preliminary budget that you guys adopted was 0% tax increase.
No increase.
Right.
What was it?
It was a 0% increase.
No
So-
increase at all.
So that would be number four, transfer of whole.
You're looking at the pie chart, Mr.
Yeah.
Mr. Hammer?
Number 4. And by voting on this, it is said, we are acknowledging that there'll be no raises.
Yeah.
That's correct. There's no raises called out for in the budget. That information was provided for council for information.
Okay.
If you felt fit for adjustment to that, you had the information, you could make a determination.
Okay. Any other questions? You ready to poll council?
Finished question?
Yeah.
Mr. Simpson,
No.
Mrs. Lara Norris,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Oh, you say Simpson?
Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Hammer,
No.
Mrs. Lawson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt.
No.
Motion passes 4-3.
6.2, receive and consider ordinance amending Chapter 203, taxation, establishing the tax rate for the general purpose for the year 2018.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
Do we have any questions?
Can you clarify that, Mr. Trio or John?
Clarify the tax rate, no change. There's been no change basically to the millage rate.
There was-
What was the question?
The tax,
clarify for everyone that with the
6.3.
6.2.
Yeah, the tax rate will be the same as last year, 13.759, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, 0% tax increase.
Thank you. So there was no tax increase for next year. Any other questions? Can we poll council, please?
Mr. Hammer,
No.
Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Lauer Norris,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson,
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt.
Yes. 6.3, receive and consider an ordinance providing for salaries and wages for personnel employed by the city of Coatesville.
I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Do we have any questions?
Now, when we approve this, is this option A, B, or C?
A lot of this too unclear.
It would
We
be
want to
under
have, it'll be A?
Yeah, just the contractual employees, would,
Okay.
whatever their contract says.
All
Which
right.
would be column A. Yes. Yes. Column A is the.
Column A, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Poll council, please.
Mrs. Lawson,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson,
Yes.
Mrs. Lauer Norris,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Hammer,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt.
Yes. Receive 6.4, receive and consider proposals for 2018 tax anticipation note.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, we have a question. There are two options here. One is 2.48, that would be if it's paid by April 30th. And the other is 2.68, if paid by June 30th, by the end of the year, excuse me. Now, it's a good opportunity at this point to make a determination as to which council wishes to get to. I think, Finance Department has been recommending the 2.48, and the note can be adjusted to reflect that. That's greater savings. I can say kudos to Joe. He's done a fantastic job, Joe Egan. These rates are unbelievable, literally eye-popping. They're below the rates that you get in most situations where you get the tax exempt. And we're not having to go through that cost. This is a fantastic price. The recommendation is to choose the early payoff of April 30th, and we would like to have that made part of the motion with the recommendation for the payoff period.
April 2000.
Amend the motion to,
Okay. Can we amend the motion to include the early payoff? Who made the motion?
I'll amend it
Linda?
for an early payoff.
Okay. Second?
I'll amend my second.
okay, it's amended to the April payoff of 2.48%. Second.
Okay.
Mr. Hammer,
Yes.
Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Lauer Norris,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson,
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt.
Yes.
Thank you.
6.5, receive and consider resolution awarding the 2018 tax revenue anticipation note.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Do we have any questions? Full council, please.
Mrs. Lawson,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson,
Yes.
Mrs. Mallon Norris,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Hammer,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt.
Yes. That's okay. 6.6, receive and consider resolution opposing HB 1620 and improper use of right-of-way without franchise fees.
I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Do we have any questions?
Yes. No.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, and I'll defer to you. Mr. Carnes, can you explain what this is about?
Yeah, the city has franchise fees because it controls its rights of way. And it has a franchise fee with Comcast and with Verizon. And they're significant portions of the city's budget. The city, like other municipalities, controls those rights of way, and it's a responsibility to take seriously. This bill that's been presented, the wireless infrastructure deployment bill, allows other companies like AT&T to put in together this unestablished technology, unestablished in the sense that there's a public safety risk possible, to operate within the rights of way. It severely limits the ability of the municipality to regulate that area, and essentially, not only does the borough or other municipalities lose the fees that are provided to reflect the fact that the city has the responsibility of those rights of way, but in addition, there are problems such as simple health, safety, welfare concerns as to placement, structure, these kinds of things are taken away from the municipality. In fact, this is one of those bills that has teeth to it and would essentially bring counteraction by people if there was an attempt to exercise control of the regulations of the municipality in the right-of-way. So although I guess there can be said that there may be some benefit of bringing down the costs of these kinds of services to the world at large, the problem is it's not being done in a fair fashion. And it's going to create a great deal of harm financially to the city, and also there's going to be a loss of control. And as the resolution indicates, there are expenses incurred by our codes department to go out and say what's in the right-of-way, what's going on there. And that expense is covered by the fees that we receive from the franchises. So without those fees, we'll actually be subsidizing some of these companies. That's the position that's set forth in this resolution. And Mr. Trios brought this to my attention before Ms. Linda Lavender Norris also brought it to our attention. And there were concerns that action be taken. Ms. Linda Lavender Norris found a very good example to work from, and it really laid out some of these issues very clearly. And that's the document that was used to prepare this draft resolution.
PCLM just did an article, they sent something here about a month ago, I think it was, regarding this and how important it was for municipalities to jump on top of this because we would lose control.
It's a serious issue, no question.
My other question was, does anybody know if the Senate is proposing anything? I know the House, this is the House bill, but does the Senate have any kind
I'm
of?
not aware of any, Mr. Simpson. We can check with the senator's office.
Yeah, and I noticed that we have included that it should be sent to the state senators, our state senator to let them know that we're opposed to it. Yeah.
Will do.
Any other questions? Full council, please.
Mr. Hamrick,
Yes.
Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones, okay, yes. Mrs. Laverne Norris,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson,
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can we have a motion to close regular action items?
I'll make that motion.
What's that?
Close regular action items. Do I need a second? Do we have any questions? Full council, please.
Mr. Simpson,
Yes.
Mrs. Laverne Norris,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Green,
Yes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Hamrick,
Yeah.
Mrs. Lawson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt.
Yes. Discussion items, 7.1, meeting minutes. Do we have any discussion for that tonight?
No, I don't have anything.
I'm good, Madam.
Okay, 7.2, key to the city.
Madam President, I have a question. I have a real problem with the key to the city.
Okay.
I mean, what's wrong with, I mean, we're doing a proclamation, and, you know, and these proclamations that we do, it's for our citizens to make a difference to our city. These people outside our city, you know, how are they making a difference and how are they contributing? Okay? I just don't see having a key. I mean, we can give them the same thing, a proclamation acknowledging their education, what they're doing in the United States of America, you know, other cities and stuff like that, that they're making an impact. And we can do the same thing with a proclamation. Why do we have to have a key? I just don't, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I think that it's not expensive, it's just a symbolism. And you make that argument when you're deciding who you give it to. I don't think it should be trivially given out, you know, but just for something to have, it's not that expensive of a program. And I know, like with our seniors, our centennials, we gave them a key to the city for their years of service, and then, you know, turning 100 and all of that. It's not an expensive program, but I do agree with you that with proclamations and things like that, we have to not cheapen or lessen what we're doing. We have to be, you know, take into consideration why we're giving it.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I know I have been asked, and I think we have discussed it before, but I do think someone that turns 100 or they're having their 105th birthday party and the family, you know, asks us for a key to the city. I think something like that is noteworthy. If you've put 100 or more years into the city and you have other municipalities around you that's doing it, I don't see anything wrong with it, but I don't think it's something that we should just arbitrarily hand out because somebody's being honored for, you know, whatever. But I do think that there's times when it would be appropriate to do that.
I agree with the centenarians and things like when Rick's jersey was retired. I'm sorry, but those are things that go above and beyond.
Yeah.
It is like an extraordinary feat. And that's what a key to the city should really be. It shouldn't be given out even as much as a proclamation.
Right.
We've kind of cut down on the proclamations as well because they were losing their authenticity. And then that's why we went to certificate of recognition and appreciation. So I think it's kind of like kids and stickers. We give them out too much, it's going to lessen the value.
That's right.
Okay.
So do we think that that's something we want to do? This is just to get to purchase these or to have them available as a vendor or?
Yeah. I'm not sure who put it on the agenda for discussion, so or what their mind thought was, so whoever did could speak on what their mindset was to that.
I don't know who put it on either, but I do believe we need to come together and determine what value it
What
is.
degree.
Yes, because like everybody else, just giving it out to give it out is useless.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have more discussion
I think we
on
should have
that
more discussion
before
on
we
it.
go ahead and order.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so we'll continue discussion and then maybe even
like
set up a criteria
The
for
Medal of Honor, it's got to be the number one.
Medal of Honor. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's just,
Okay.
you know, it's got to be the most important act or person, or if you want to make it worth something, I think.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on 7.2? 7.3, street closures. I had asked for that to be put back on because I think the last time we were discussing it, it was really left open. And I think we need to come to an agreement on.
We talked about having a committee together because I think that we have to really discuss it in detail because just like Crosby came today and made it known that the Grand Prix is going to be going to a 501c3. So when that happens, that's not going to be a city-sponsored event. So we need to create
That's not true.
well, what?
No, the 501c3 is being formed to solicit funds to support the city-sponsored.
Yeah, but it's
Grand
going to
Prix.
be, the 501c3 is going to be the committee that's putting
No.
on the Grand Prix.
No, that's not true.
Why wouldn't, the city's not putting it on. We were never putting it on. We sponsored it, but.
The 501c3 is just to solicit funds that will be given to the city to distribute.
Okay, but again, we need to look at that very detailed, because whatever we decide is going to apply to everyone. It's not going to be a pick and choose who can close the street and who can't. So I think that one of the things that we talked about was forming a committee to discuss that. Because it needs to be, we need to really think about it in great detail so that we're not leaving out and excluding anyone, and we're taking every scenario or as many scenarios as possible into consideration. Because if you're gonna, do something like this and create an ordinance, we need to make sure that we're putting a lot of thought into it.
Right, there's gotta be an ordinance that makes sense.
Yes.
Right.
And that's what the committee can work on. And once you have that down pat.
They bring it to council.
Yeah, that's ingrained.
Okay.
And that's the way things should be.
Yeah, well, and we need to work on it soon, because you're gonna have the weather changing, even though we're in the midst of winter. It's gonna go by, and then people are gonna be requesting, and especially with the one event that's gonna happen, you're gonna have people requesting, so we need to put something in place as soon as possible, so we'll have a answer across the board. Okay? Good. Solicitors report. Mr.
Do you want
Carnes?
to close, would you close that or not?
No, not discussion
Okay.
items.
Okay, yes. Thank you, Madam President. The report is in the packet. City Hall renovations are moving forward. Last time Cook Services was sent the contract, so that's positive. The TAN, as mentioned before, kudos to Joe and the Finance Department. We worked together. We saved the city the money of not having to go with tax exemptions we've done in the past. That saved over $2,000. It's a very good relationship we have with Coatesville Savings Bank, and so that's been prepared and that's ready to go. That closing will be on January 2nd. The Fourth Avenue project, we had a meeting I attended Thursday, a week or so ago, and we did follow up. I spoke with Mr. Kissinger. There were a couple properties we didn't have, and some documents we didn't have, but it's all together now. It's all at City Hall. There are 14 properties with either right-of-way agreements or possibly temporary construction easements. Very few of those. We had a presentation in front of Catalyst regarding Catalyst sign and an amphitheater located on the Gateway Park, and that was very favorably received this morning. So we hope to get action on that, and I'll let Mr. Trio discuss that in further detail. And that's about it. Any questions?
Thank you. Mr. Trio?
Well, I don't see my report, didn't get anything. Okay, just to update the Reno project for City Hall. All the contractors are on contract now. The construction for the courts has been fit out. As far as the framing and the construction, we did meet with representatives and also Mr. Hines, Judge Hines last week, went over some minimal changes to the courtroom space and things like that, so that's all getting worked through. So that's on schedule and on budget at this point in time. We are continuing to expect to see our PennDOT permit for First and Lincoln shortly. It's due before the end of this year, before the 31st of December. We expect the construction to be completed or be started in the spring. We have cleaned up the rest of the right-of-ways and the rest of the requirements required to get the land to allow for the widening and the various improvements for the work there. There's really not much changes from last time, Madam President. There's mostly a couple of announcements we do have, is that there will be a concert here on Wednesday. The Planning Commission was scheduled for the 13th. They will not be meeting on the DEP job until the January meeting, which will be the second Wednesday in January. So there will be a concert. As you can see, the instruments set up here, so everybody's welcome to the concert by the Build-A-Band group on this floor. Tomorrow night, there is, I believe, a meeting with the committee for Palmer Park, which is, I believe, the last committee meeting will be held at the community center. I don't believe we had any complaints or any issues with the slate snow incident we had over the weekend. Our Public Works was available for service as needed. We didn't have any issues or any problems over the weekend that we were made aware of. So other than that, that's pretty much it.
Can I answer a question, Mr. Trio?
Yes, ma'am.
I know Ms. Norris had asked, I was reading your report, you meet with Boyle every Monday?
Every other Tuesday.
Every other Tuesday?
Yes.
Were you able to get those names?
We're going to have them probably tomorrow. I will get them.
Okay.
That'll be the first meeting since we had met this
Okay.
to discuss that.
And the other thing is, the sinkhole at 10th Avenue. I see that they've removed all the barriers and they cold patched it again. Are we going to do anything different to that? Because each time we cold patch it, 2 months later, it's bigger. And, you know, she's called me, she's emailed me several times, just very unhappy that Howie came out and cold patched it one more time. Because it's going to do the same thing. And after I promised her that we were having the engineer look at it and trying to figure out what the best thing to do to fix this, because each time it opens up bigger.
We
And,
discussed it with them. I mean, they told us that was the most appropriate patch. It could last.
Who's them?
Public Works and the engineer,
Well, see,
Anthony
the
O'Reilly.
engineer is saying, did you talk to them? Because they're saying something different. They're saying that they were not authorized.
Who are they saying that to?
To fix it. Because I contacted Nick, I contacted the Public Works Department.
Well,
and
let
I
me
said,
get the
"Look,
numbers, because we're hearing different stories then.
Yeah, the engineer was out there and met with her son, and that's her son was the one that told them, I've already tested the water runoff, and there's nothing wrong with the way that the water is draining off of my property, even though they wanted to do the test anyway. And the engineer's response was that the city is not wanting him to do it. We're not, the council is not authorizing them to do it. And
Well, all I can tell you is I'm getting different stories, so I'll have to follow up with that.
yeah, I said that
Completely
to
opposite
you
of that.
before, that this is what the conversation has been. I would really, I mean, this has been going on how long, Barry? 3 years?
Well, right now, as far as I
And it's
understand, it
opened up.
was fixed, it was patched, it was completed.
Yeah, but it
Did
was
we use-
fixed twice.
It was backfilled.
Why didn't we use hot asphalt?
It's too cold.
Yeah,
It's
but
too
it's,
cold
but
for it.
it's been doing
No,
this.
but it's
I
been
was
this for a
there
couple weeks ago.
in 2 summers ago.
But putting hot asphalt over top of it isn't fixing the issue, it's just covering it up for a minute.
Well,
It needs to be fixed.
Didn't they salt cut that?
Yes.
Salt cut that, dig it down,
That's what I thought,
recompact
too.
it, put stone
Excavated
in.
it, replaced stone.
And it didn't work.
It didn't
So
work.
Yeah,
it needs
because-
to be
that's right,
addressed again.
They should have put hot patch in.
It's not.
Let me, like I said, I'm getting a different story, so let me follow up with that. We have staff meeting on, we'll see them tomorrow, but we have
Okay,
staff
'cause
on
she's
Wednesday.
she's not a happy person.
Well, I'll go out and meet her myself. I'll
Can
see
you
what's going
please?
on. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Trio before we move on? Citizens' hearings, non-agenda items?
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, please again be mindful of our 3-minute limit for the citizens' hearings. We first have Mr. John Robinson. As you approach the podium, please give your name and your address, please.
Good evening to all.
Good
My name
evening.
is John Robinson at 71 Foundry Street. And I am here with the request to reference the Coatesville Memorial Community Center. I'm requesting that this council take whatever steps are necessary to return the community center back to community control. I realize there are problems involved, but I am one person who is willing to work with you in order to make that happen. This center can be a vital and very important part of the community. I'm a part of a mentoring organization. We also have a summer reading program with the school district. We've operated an after-school homework program. We counsel with young men and women and also parents. So this community center can be very, very important. I know it's shuttered, but let's do whatever we can or whatever is necessary to make it happen so that we can get it going again. As a former board member, I know what we have done and know what we can do. I'm part of an interfaith organization that would like to get collaboration with the churches in the area to solve and resolve some community problems. So with your direction and with your instruction, I'll be glad to work with you in whatever way is necessary and what we have to do. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Robinson, if you would like to set a meeting up in City Hall, we could discuss your program and see if there's a way we can work with you on this. I think that would be helpful.
Very good.
If the board is okay with that.
Are you asking to have the community center turn back over to the community center board, or are you just asking to have their building function? I was trying to understand.
Well, one thing I would like to do is get the doors open. That's the first
Say it
thing. But
again.
as far as to get the doors open,
Yeah.
but as far as who has control or how the control is rested, that's.
Yeah, I would like to see those doors open again too. We need some renovations in there.
Right.
So
Yeah, right
how we
now
go
it's not
about
safe,
it,
yeah.
right, how we go about it
That's
is
a high
up to you,
priority
right,
for us.
you all. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you.
Mr. Stivell? Thank you. Mr. Harville Brown? Mr. Harville Brown?
Good evening. Harville Brown, 314 Adams Drive in Coatesville. I think you pretty well answered the question, because I'm here with Johnny Robinson about the community center and to address the genocidal condition that's going on in Coatesville among our young people. I think I have as much experience as anybody here with the young people, being the director of the community center, the director of the housing authority at Oak Street, and former policeman in Callan Township, and a social worker. And also, I just wanted to say this, and I appreciate the fact that you're considering the board to take over that center, because the genocidal factor that's starting to fester among our young people is the school, it's not only the parents and the school, but the city officials have a part to play in that too. Because we are now almost 1 in 5 where kids don't graduate. We're losing them to drugs. We're losing them to pregnancy. We're losing them to, and the academic situation is terrible. So we just have to do something. And it's not all that chief of police's job to run around and arrest those kids. The city manager, I haven't heard your yearly report yet, but I want you to include the young people in our community too. And I know Coatesville has a problem with finances, but these are people we're dealing with. They're the future of Coatesville. And if we don't take them into consideration, we might as well get ready to close the doors of Coatesville. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Can I bring up some initiatives that we're trying to work through? Is that responded?
Mr. Paul Evans?
Madam President, Council, I'd like to talk about stop work orders. There's a picture of one issued in the city, and it's required that the reason be put upon it, and it states 84.1 in the city code. And you'll see that that requires contractors to have a license. And so the violation for not having a license is below an 84.9, and that is that there'll be a summary citation. The city shall give official written notice to the violator by registered or certified mail or hand delivery that he or she is committing a violation. However, a stop work order was issued, which is when a permit exists on a property, which it did, and that falls under the Pennsylvania UCC Appeals Board. If one was to appeal it, it's the Uniform Construction Board. So we don't understand why a stop work order was issued in that situation. It should have been a citation, from what I can tell. But I also want to talk about the fact that beyond that, if one was to try to appeal that, there must be a 5-person board appointed by the City Council to 5-year terms with 2 alternates. And as you can see below, there are 0 people for the city of Coatesville. All of the seats are vacant. And on the back, you will see that Williston Township has 7 people on their UCC board. So stop work orders are being issued, and there's no way to appeal it, and they're being issued in cases of the city code, for which the UCC, I do not believe it is relevant to the UCC. So I'm asking what the remedy is in this situation. How is someone supposed to proceed?
To address that, Scott?
The stop work order was issued because there was an unlicensed contractor working on this property. That contractor needs to come into the City of Coatesville Codes Office and register as a contractor. And then the stop work order will be lifted.
I disagree. I believe you need to take the stop work order off because I believe it is not an authorized tool. It is nowhere in the city code does it mention stop work orders. You have to issue a citation.
We'll have to check on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, can they still work without a license?
Like you can't,
I
You
didn't think
still
so.
want them to work without a license?
I didn't give an opinion on that. There's no work going on this city.
next.
Donovan Thorny. Thorny, Thorny. Please give your name and your address, please.
My name is Donovan Thorny. I'm 507 Coatesville in Exton, PA. Good evening to the board, to the committee, sorry. I am a licensed contractor, and on November 5th, 2017, I went into the building department, filed an application for an electrical permit to work on property right here in the city. The cost of the work was $750, and I was advised that the cost of the building permit application was $64, $4 of which belongs to the state. In addition to that, I provided my Pennsylvania HIC license, and I completed the contractor registration form, paid a fee of $75, and there's a check showing the payment for both of those, the $64 plus the $75, on check number 2504, copy of which I provided for each of you. 2 days later, I heard nothing about the permit. I called the office to find out if my permit was ready, and I was advised by Mr. Faciolo, Anthony Faciolo, that I needed to come in and pay an additional fee, which is called a business privilege tax. Now, I went in immediately, paid with check number 2505, a copy of which you have. Both of these checks were cleared through my bank. That's a copy of the cleared checks that you have. And I tried to find out why I needed to pay these fees. I went through by the way, before going to that, my project was still held up for an additional almost 2 weeks. I provided a copy of my permit that was issued on November 16th, which I did not receive any information from the building department as to why there was such a discrepancy on the dates. Normally, I was told that I would have had my permit the next day or two. On further checking to find out why I was why I had to pay these fees, I noticed I went into your codes, and in the contractor licensing and registration, it shows the initial annual fee for such license should be $25. And that's based on Chapter 84.3. Further, in the same code, in 84.7C, it shows that the initial fee, the initial annual fee should have been $50 a year. It also referenced, the codes also referenced Chapter 108 of contractor fee, where it says a building contractor's license fee is $75 per year. And that's 108.1D. I have about 4 questions in relation to this. What is the purpose of the business privilege tax? Number 1. Number 2, are the other contractors, building contractors, charge this tax, quote, tax fee? Number 3, I did not get a receipt for that. I was told that it would be sent out to me. I was given no receipt. The only evidence I have is my check. What is a certificate, or what evidence do you have for that, the use of that payment? And finally, why was there no effort to refund this payment if it was not necessary? Thank you.
Yeah, I guess Scott would answer, but I have a question too. Have you submitted these questions in writing as a follow-up in a letter to us? I have the copies of what you presented, but I think you went through quite a laundry list there just now. So I don't know if, Scott, you can address them, or
The first time I'm hearing of it, I'll be glad to meet with you tomorrow sometime and we can go through it.
This is what I'd like to do.
Okay, sir.
I'd like you to prepare a list with the questions that you were asking. So Mr. Muldery can see what they are, I can see what they are, and you can see what they are. If we have to do any follow-up anywhere else, we'll make sure that we address that, put it to bed, okay? If you can have that to us tomorrow, that'd be helpful.
Okay.
Do you have them written down now? Do you have them written down now?
Yes, I do.
I would let him prepare, bring a letter and do it so we can.
But I can
But then you
submit
could
it.
research it and.
No, he's not researching, he's just putting his questions.
No, I'm saying you could. So this man doesn't lose any more time. He's already lost 2 weeks on his job. That's what I'm saying. If you have the questions tonight, you can have it ready when he comes tomorrow. How long have you lost on your job, sir?
It's just over a month.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's over a month.
Well,
This- and
I'm
I'm
just
telling
saying it's
you-
the first I heard of this, so.
What address are you losing time at?
44 Oak.
Oak Street.
It's on the bottom of the checks.
With the stop work order?
Yes.
We'll see you tomorrow and we'll discuss it.
Okay. As a matter of fact, I'll email you with the questions tonight. You'll have it in the morning when you get to the office.
You have been working on that up until the stop work order was issued, though, correct? Because the wiring has been completed in there.
Yes, I did get my inspection and the wiring
My
passed.
understanding is that the wiring was covered by drywall by an illegal contractor, and the building inspector had to ask them to remove the drywall so they could inspect your wiring. That's not the case?
No, the electrical was not.
Drywall illegally without a framing or electrical?
No,
plumbing?
the electrical passed. The electrical passed inspection. The sticker was on the window. It was afterwards when the inspector came out, after the drywall, after the electrical inspection passed.
Gentlemen, I'm going to ask if you would discontinue this conversation now, and if you would come into his office tomorrow, and then you could pick it up, okay?
Okay.
Tomorrow.
I'll be there.
Last weekend, we were out
Thank
there
you.
banging and
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. France Gamaffa?
I got cameras. I can provide documentation.
Good evening, council,
Good
everyone.
evening.
I'm just going to look into 2018 and suggest that possibly at the start of our meetings here at council, if we can, not for my personal concern, because I am who I am, but for other people in the community who may not be Christian and of the same faith as everybody else, that maybe we can consider a moment of silence at the start of a meeting as opposed to prayer, so that it remains more generic for other people in the community that attend meetings. I know this was brought up several years ago about prayer at the meetings, at the council meetings. Like I said, I don't personally have an issue, but out of respect for others that may not be Christian, I would just like to, maybe 2018, have council consider that as an option, a moment of silence as opposed to a prayer, because not everybody prays the same.
Please, when I requested that we have prayer, it wasn't just for Christians. It's for any faith. Acknowledging that not everybody's a Christian. That's why it's open to whomever, whatever your faith is.
Oh, right, I understand that, but that's what I'm saying. Not everybody prays the same way. And if we reference God and Jesus, like I said, it's not personally for me because, that's what I believe. I'm a Christian, I'm Catholic, and I have no problem with that. But in respect for other people who may not have the same comfort level, I'm just asking to maybe switch it to a moment of silence as opposed to an actual prayer, so that way everybody can do what they need to do privately. That's it. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to close citizens' hearings? Any questions? Poll council, please.
Mr. Hamrick?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones? Mrs. Laverne Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt?
Yes. Special events, fireworks?
I guess this was carried over from last meeting. Mr. Roderick Jones has applied to have a fireworks exhibition on New Year's Eve. The original application had indicated that was going to be conducted at Scott Field. Since that original application, we understand that the school district, due to various reasons, did not approve that application. Mr. Jones has submitted, or we have reviewed his documents. We have received our in-staff letters from Mr. Gary Alderman, Chief Laufer, Scott Molderig, and there are still some outstanding issues that have to be addressed as far as insurance, a final determination, approval from the alternate site, which is the flats located at First Avenue and Lincoln Highway on the northwest corner. So there's still open issues with that application. If there's any other things that either Chief or Scott, Mr. Fire Chief Alderman isn't here tonight, but if you guys have anything else to add, now's your time.
Other than what I put in the correspondence, with regard to the police response, it's yet to be determined whether we'll need to shut down Lincoln Highway based upon the size of the shells. There's certain setback requirements based upon the size of the shell. So once that is verified through the application process, then we'll be able to determine whether Lincoln Highway needs to be closed, which will determine the amount of manpower that we need to ensure safety for the event.
So I have a question. Being that you're waiting on additional information from him, this is our last meeting, right?
Yes.
Would we be able to do this with a poll?
Oh, you mean after we receive, I give you a call and poll, soft poll? If
I think
council,
we received some application tonight, beginning of the meeting. We haven't had a chance to review it yet tonight or share it with the police chief or fire chief. So we have, have a chance to review it maybe tomorrow.
And he's still waiting on the,
well, like Mr. Carnes has mentioned, you could conditionally approve it based on them meeting conditions. Now, once again, we want to make sure that it's not the last minute, that we're not held up to the very end to make sure whether we can act on this or not, like we've had some other times. So you can go ahead and conditionally approve it or not approve it tonight, and then when we receive the information, Scott, I didn't realize we got anything today. We can discuss this tomorrow.
You okay? I'll finish it.
So you could, it's your pleasure tonight, if you want to act on it conditionally, that he meets the requirements of all the department heads that have weighed in on this. As you recall, the original discussion was based on the information we received, that they would not be in favor of that. So we'll have to make sure that that information, specifically insurance, specifically the size of the shells and the types of fireworks, meet the requirements of the safety, as the chief mentioned, and the insurance requirements to protect them in the city.
I would be in agreement to that upon conditions.
I could do a soft poll, we get the rest of the information. I call, soft poll?
Yeah.
So we let it go at this point, and once we receive the information, I'll call everybody and get a poll on it?
Soft poll, yeah.
Okay. Will do.
Okay, council comments? Huh? Do it now. Council President, Ms. Hunt had to leave for a family emergency, so I will finish out the meeting tonight. We have our council comments, Mr. Hamrick.
All I gotta say is wow. It's been a great 8 years serving on council. I guess everybody, when they leave council, they say, what they did and stuff like that. Well, did I do anything? No, I didn't. Did council do everything? Because I'm a part of council. I'm one, like everybody else. We did everything, and it was a pleasure. The committees that I served on was at the pleasure of council. I served on various committees, liaison for the fire department, the COG, and I worked on contracts with the blessing of council, and I reported back to him. And to me, it was a lot of, it was hard work, and it takes a lot of dedication, and you spend a lot of time. And I remember some of the contracts that I did. I was up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning until we came with some type of resolution, an agreement, and that's part of it. One of the exciting things to me as a council person was proclamations to people going to that 100-year birthday party and presenting that to one of our citizens. That was an awesome feeling. And my last one that I did, it was for the Apostle. And this was a 3-hour session. Wow, I mean, I've never been in anything like that. I was just like totally amazed, and I'm so happy that council gave me the opportunity to do this. And, I think that we've come a long way in 8 years. We've changed our administration, our finance department is at a better place and stronger now. Our police department, our community policing has been good. We're on board with codes now, and hopefully that's going to grow and be better. And I really appreciate it. And our public works, stepping up to the plate. So, it's been a great 8 years for me, and I really appreciate that the taxpayers and the voters, voted me in for 8 years. I really appreciate that. And I want to thank the community. Thanks.
We truly are going to miss you, Joe, but don't think you're getting away with it. You're going to still be active on boards and commissions. There's a lot of work.
He didn't even mention being a great pumpkin. He never even mentioned that he was the great pumpkin.
You're going to retirement is more work sometimes. I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming out. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. This is our last meeting for the year. I hope we're having some kind of reception for the staff to say Merry Christmas. I know we talked about it, and I forgot to bring that up in discussion again, but a lot has taken place this year, and it's been a lot of really positive things, a lot of things that we've had to overcome, and I'm just so happy that we were able to meet the challenges, and we still have a long way to go. And I mean, you heard the comments at the podium today. We got to take the good with the bad. We got to figure it out, and we got to make a way for our city. Again, this year, we were able to approve our budget with no tax increase to our residents. And, to me, we can't afford to raise taxes. We have to figure out what we need to do to move forward. And I know that some people don't agree with that or don't agree with the tactic that we use, but it's the best solution for what we have to deal with right now. So again, I just wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Sir, I hope we get you taken care of this week. Make sure that you contact code so that we can resolve your issue. Because anyone that's coming into the city doing improvements, trying to make a place better, we want to work with you. We want to help you. We're not here to hinder you. We're here to make it happen. So I thank you very much, everyone, for coming in.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming and spending all this time with us and staying a while. Also, this is my final hour, and relieved. But I was raised in a proper and polite society. I grew up in a convent school, so I have strange ways compared to other people. When I say something, I mean it. If I don't say nothing, that's when you look out. But I would like to thank Mr. Trio for his endurance. He stepped right in, gave us a boost, and that was electrifying. Thank you. Special thanks also to Chief Lawfer for coming in and uplifting the city and keeping them guys going good. I appreciate it. Mr. Muldering and Mr. Egan, thank you both for doing this fantastic job. Special thanks to Mrs. Mowdy. She's been here longer than anybody that I know of, and she's always done a great job. I appreciate Mrs. Hunt. She left, but her poise, grace, and dignity in the chair means a lot. She's a very proper young lady. Mr. Simpson, I appreciate your endurance, long-standing, and genteel manner. You are something special.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And for everyone else, I wish you the happy holidays, the best of everything. And I have one final comment for Mrs. Mowdy. Youth is a gift of nature, but age is a work of art. And that's by Stanislaus Jerkylek, whoever that is. But anyhow, he wrote it. So thank you once again, and have a nice holiday.
We had a wonderful Christmas parade, very well attended. It was an exciting time for our community once again, and kudos to the members of that committee that put it forth. It was wonderful. We had a lot of great things happening. Our high school football team won the district final. They were awesome. Our winter wonderland. The seniors, they prepared and fed our seniors this weekend. It's just been an awesome time of community, and I appreciate that. We're only as strong as the weakest one in our community, so it would benefit all of us, again, to esteem the other higher than ourselves. I personally know that I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to research and find them. I'm willing to lean on whomever does have them, and we need to move our community forward. Stop pointing fingers, trying to hold each other back. It's not necessary. It's too much to be done to be held back. With that being said, I pray that everybody has a Merry Christmas, safe, happy holidays. Enjoy your families. And I look forward to our first meeting in January. Again, moving forward with a passion. If I can be of any service, of any help to anyone on either side of this table, it would be my pleasure to do and be whatever you need me to. To our staff, our department heads, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You've been wonderful. You've been a blessing. You've endured. And I'm sure it wasn't easy. However, you did it, and I appreciate it. I just pray that everybody have a safe and blessed ride home and find your homes in the same manner you left them. Have a blessed evening.
And I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. I'd also like to give thanks to the Coatesville Christmas Parade Committee. And what I'd like to do with the council's blessing is if we give them a certificate of recognition or some sort of proclamation, recognizing for the hard work and effort and the fundraising that they do throughout the year to put on that Christmas parade. It's been a tradition here in Coatesville for a very long time. And sometimes I don't think they get the recognition. So I'd like to propose that we reach out to the committee and see if they would come in and to be officially recognized. So I'd also like to thank my friends, Ingrid Jones and Joe Hamrick, for the years that they've worked with us on city council. It's been a pleasure, and it's just like everything else. Sometimes we don't always agree, but one thing we can always do is walk away friends at the end of the day.
That's right.
And we've always been able to do that. and I appreciate you spending the last 8 years with us. And whatever, we want you to stay involved and still come to the meetings and become more involved, outside of the council. So with that, everybody have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we'll all see you next year. And I'm also looking forward to next year being the only male on city council. So it's going to be a pleasure to serve with. Instead of 5 ladies, we'll have 6 then.
And we'll straighten him right out.
So, I'm looking forward to it.
Lies.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Yeah, hashtag. I want to congratulate our police department on our 15th successful Shot with a Cop that was held Saturday. 65 children got to spend money with an officer from a surrounding department or the Coatesville Police Department, our sheriff's office. I think almost every municipality was represented by at least one officer or more. I think this was the longest procession that we've had from Coatesville to the store, and the kids just loved it. The amount of people pulling over, taking pictures, and everybody knew what it was for. We have banners on both sides of the buses this year, so it was a great event. The kids usually take a long time to shop, but this year I think we got done in a record time. The kids were done shopping by 11:30, which is a record. So I just want to thank our police department for that and all of the efforts that you put forth, reaching out to our community and not just going for bad decisions, but also for good ones as well. Yes. Merry Christmas to all of our staff. Hanukkah starts tomorrow, so happy Hanukkah if you celebrate that. That's it. Have a good night. I have a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Trio, full council.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lara Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Hamrick? Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Thank you. Have a great New Year's, everybody.
You also-
Great Christmas, great New Year's.
Oh, don't think
But we'll
you're
see you.
rid of us.
We'll see you. I'm sure I'll see you before that, right?
Don't threaten us.
What's that?
Don't threaten us.